We're going live in just a second.
We're live.
We're live. Okay. Good evening, Tewksbury. It is Thursday, February 19th. It is 6 o'clock p.m. And I'd like to call this meeting of the Tewksbury Board of Health to order. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. So if I could ask everyone in our studio audience to stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's the thread. Oh. February 20th today.
Yeah, boy.
Probably when it's a school vacation, we could lose track of what day of the week it is. Who wouldn't? Okay. Yep, 2/20/20. Oh, how I forgot that one.
Listen, it's all twos and zeros.
That's
and
true.
It's an easy mistake to make,
Okay.
that binary stuff.
So moving on to the agenda items. Approval of minutes. We have minutes from our December 19th, 2019, and our January 16th, 2020 meetings. The clerk and I have both reviewed these, as well as the director. I guess we'll take the December ones first. Anyone have any comments or questions about the December meeting minutes?
I do not have any.
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Okay? And then on the January 16th, 2020 minutes, any comments or questions?
I have none.
Okay?
None here.
Okay. Seeing no comments or changes, and I'm willing to make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from December and January.
Okay.
Second?
So motion's been put forth and second to approve the minutes of December 19th, 2019 and January 16th, 2020 as submitted. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries unanimously 4-0. Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda is introduction. We have a new member of the Health Department that is here tonight. So Director, I'll let you introduce.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Chairman. So Urvi Agawala comes to join us here, the town of Tewksbury, as the public health nurse. As you know, Sarah Kinghorn left us 6 weeks or maybe 2 months ago. She just started last week, so be kind. Thank you. So she's been getting her feet wet. Her schedule is going to be Wednesdays from 8 to 2, and this is subject to change, but right at the moment, 8 to 2, Thursdays, 8 to 2, and Fridays, full day, 8 to 4:30. Continuing or restarting the blood pressure clinics at the senior center on Wednesdays, as they were before for now. So far, we've met with she's met with the senior center director, we've met with the housing authority director, and given her a little bit of a tour around, not a lot, so there's a lot to learn in this town. But let her introduce herself and welcome her. Thank you.
I am Urvi, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And, just like Susan said, I've been here a week now and still just learning the ropes. And I come from a background of public health, but working with the senior population mostly. So there are a few things that are going to be new to my role for me, but I'm excited to learn. So thank you.
Welcome.
Well, welcome aboard.
Yeah, and this will not be the last we hear from you tonight, because we have you at the end of the agenda to educate us as well as the viewing public tonight.
So the next thing we need to do is appoint Urvi as a special health agent, so she can, work for the board. So,
Do we need a
a
motion?
motion?
Yep.
Motion. I will make a motion to appoint her as a special health agent.
You want to say her name or just her?
Oh, I'm sorry. I will make a motion to appoint Urvi Agawala, is it correct?
Yep.
As our special health agent.
Okay, Thank you.
Someone willing to second the motion?
I will second the motion that Irvi Agawala be appointed as the public health nurse and appointment as a special health agent.
Okay, so motion's been put forth and second to appoint Irvi Agawala as special health agent for the health department. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. It's unanimous. So now you're officially a health agent. Okay. Moving on to old business, 199 Marston Street, Olivera Farm, Custom Slaughterhouse, owners Dennis Olivera. Update and discussion, post-public hearing progress. From the flurry of emails that came from the director today, the last ones is just that I had spoken with the director and we reviewed what was presented to us up to this point, and there's really nothing for us to view at this point because all Attorney Bornstein and the consultant's efforts have been in, up to this point was creating the documents that the Department of Public Health had requested be submitted by last Friday, this February 14th, which they have done. So now they're going to be able to work on the items that we had asked them to do. So I kept it on the agenda tonight just because I wanted us just to put together sort of a brief bullet list of what specific things are we looking from the Olivera team to be providing to us, hopefully for our next meeting, and to have the consultant present so that whatever questions we may have about the documents or the plans, the creator of the information will be there to answer the questions. I know in past meetings, we had talked about having, or it had requested a floor plan of the existing slaughterhouse, listing location and types of equipment that are present there, as well as marking what are the customer-only areas at the slaughterhouse. Just in the future, as we're talking about that slaughterhouse, we're all aware of what's where and what areas are customers allowed into and what is for staff only. There'd also been talk of having sort of a larger site plan with areas sort of denoted more for our benefit, what's where on the farm, as well as what is viewed as sort of public access area. We'd also talked about the operations plan, and I think 2 meetings ago, Attorney Bornstein asked me how detailed did I want it, maybe at the last meeting. I said, not very detailed. I'd rather start off executive summary level, and then as we look at it, we can see how much more detail is needed, rather than have them do something very detailed and realize that's probably more detail than what we wanted. But I think our comments would be more focused around what we would see as being part of that operations plan. To me, one of the things that we had requested in the past was some indication about just whom the staff is there, sort of names and what their roles are, an idea of the hours of operation on a daily basis, so we have some idea of what's happening on each given day of the week. And then whatever workflow that there is on a weekly basis, so we understand when animals come from the auction in Pennsylvania, when do they arrive there, over what days are they then sold and slaughtered, and then where other animals are obtained from in-state for slaughtering as well, just so we get a better idea of what the flow of animals onto the property and then off the property in the form of slaughtered meat is. Everything that had been submitted to the Department of Public Health that I think we had gotten an email yesterday from you, which was where you forwarded us the
Or might have
report.
been Monday.
Monday.
Late, yeah. They sent it on Friday, and I wasn't in the
Yeah.
office, so.
When I looked at that, I look at it, and from my vantage point, it looked like each of those items was sort of a separate and distinct part of what would go into an operations plan, but there wasn't I guess it was a start. It was not sort of grouped or even titled what each document was. And it looked like it was very high level overview, and we never really provided any insight into what level of detail do we want these different documents to be. And I think it was more, this is the first time we're going down this path, so we're not really quite sure what level of detail we need until we see at least something. So I think what we saw in the DPH submittal is that initial something of what their efforts have been so far. And I'll turn it over to my fellow board members because I'm not sure what you may have for thoughts and additional information or how we can provide more clarity to what we're looking for in the operations report or the operations plan.
Anything else?
I have just a few things that may not have been discussed at the last meeting that I thought their expert might want to cover, and I don't fully expect him to reinvent the wheel to satisfy us, but he has enough experience where he's reviewed other operations that he should be able to provide a checklist, and that checklist should come from his experience, and we should be able to review that checklist, and we should be the checkers. If we see something that we think should be relevant and supplied, I think we should be able to check that off. We should not be doing this work for anybody. This work should be provided to us, and we should have the ability to review it and determine whether or not it fits our thought and needs profile. That was number one. The operation plan, again, I stress the importance of having a site plan and a planogram of equipment. And the reason being is because this appears to be about a 365-day operation. It's going all the time. While it has limited hours, there's no limits on transport, animals, etc. They come and go. Importance there is, because it's a 24-hour operation, a site plan is necessary. Why? Because the Board of Health, police, and fire should all be operating on the same plan in the event of an emergency during snow cover, bad weather, whatever it is. These are things that there has to be a planogram. There has to be a map. There has to be a site plan. No one should have to look for this information. It should come from this department and go to anyone else that may need it to respond in kind for any type of emergency over there. So again, I stress the importance of a site plan and designating those areas, designating the planogram for emergency. And also in that operation, I believe that they should have emergency contacts, who their substitute contacts are, who their substitute roster is, what happens when someone's sick, and who is going to take over that responsibility, because that is part of this operation plan. It should be that detailed. Should we be doing that? No, that should be coming from this expert. We should be able to check off these boxes, and we should be able to provide them with the feedback necessary so that they can just come into compliance. With that, I'll pass it along to anyone else.
I have to agree with you. You took it a step further, but my concern is that it doesn't seem that complicated that the consultant cannot supply us with some sort of operational checklist, rather quickly. I feel like enough time has gone by. We can add something to it that may be very specific to this location if necessary, but I feel like that's something that we should have sooner than later. And that's what I have to say about that.
And we'd also asked that whatever is prepared is also bilingual, since not everyone there speaks English, so that there is nothing lost in translation. And the other piece of this is that, now, I mentioned specifically at prior meetings, is that we view this consultant in the same parallel as we do having a food establishment be required to hire a food consultant that goes in, does the initial inspection, puts together a action plan, goes back, trains the employees what they need to do, and then returns on a periodic basis over the next couple months just to monitor, ensure continuing compliance, and that the training that was provided is actually being implemented. So I think that would be another part of this whole thing, is that we'd also want to see from them what their plan is for getting the staff trained, as well as for ensuring ongoing compliance with the training. And Mr. Rue?
I believe I'm recused from this item.
Okay.
No comment.
Well, that helps a lot. You know, since he didn't have anything to provide to me, I just thought, I said, you know, you've listened, you've written a lot of notes. I said, review your notes. I think you know what the board wants, but I'll give you a little more guideline. I don't want to waste anyone's time. So at least, it's really in their court, like you said. So I wasn't really asking you to put it together, but if we could just send them a list so that he hears one more time, because, you know, he's here, he's a lawyer, he's representing them, what you're looking for, so that when you do get something, it's not totally out there. You know, want it to be something at least that is in your realm of what you're looking for, so.
Right, and then
So thank you for that.
I would still look to have them continue to submit us the progress report.
I
so that
asked him to do that,
we
yes.
see that there is progress being made on this.
And the organizational flow chart, I think, is important, that we know everybody involved, emergency phone numbers, emails, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think that's been supplied.
To us, no.
And that organizational flow chart and contact, service list contact, I think is important from a standpoint of being able to address something in a very timely fashion.
Great.
So I think with that would be sort of the roster of the employees, what their key responsibilities are, besides all their contact info. And I think that in the plans, or what was submitted to DPH, there was enough detail about who the different haulers are for the different types of off-product that's generated. So I think that's fine. And I think in the past, there had been question about whether one had been licensed, I think out of New York State. And I think that was answered. So I think, unless you want to double check, I think everyone that was listed there as a hauler is still properly licensed with the town.
Yes.
Okay. So, any other questions before we move on, or comments on that?
The licensing is something that you're handling aside from this operation. Is there a garbage to swine type situation over there? What's going on with that? Is there?
So there's multiple, there's one awful hauler who pumps the tank that's in ground. There's one that removes, the one from New York, the evisceration, the leftovers, and that goes
So
far
all
away.
the awful
And then-
hauls?
And then there's a regular trash, yeah.
Okay. I think we should know who the
Yep.
licensees coming on the property are, and I think that would be part of the organizational flow chart.
Yeah, so they listed them in their list, so they can just pop that into the chart.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because like you said, that's part of the, who do I call if someone doesn't show up? And then you want to have a backup in case, you know, that type of thing. It's emergency 101. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would just add that from whatever they did submit to the DPH, if that goes into this operations plan, they at least put headings on top of the document, so we know what that document.
Provide this
Is.
document to the buyer, blah, 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 and then that's the
Right.
title, yeah.
Oh,
Title
and that
of
was one
document-
other example
title of
is,
documents.
in the DPH submittal, they talked about they were going to have a handout that they would provide to the customer. And mentioning director, well, it'd be nice if they actually had a copy of that handout there, so it wasn't something like it was just researched on the internet and they printed it, but here's an example of what we're actually going to hand people.
And just as a reminder to the public, these things that the board is suggesting as part of the submittal is part of the compliance of the original permit that was issued by the board. And I know maybe some residents haven't caught up with it, but these are really nothing new. They enhance the compliance efforts the farm to meet the permit requirements that were originally ordered by the board. So I would like everyone to know that, these are more or less tweaking of what has been granted in the past and what we now feel is necessary in order to keep them in compliance so that they can self-regulate themselves.
So I fully hope that come our March meeting that there'll be a plan far enough along that they can present it. We can have the consultant here and ask whatever questions we might have.
Let's not forget to talk about that March meeting.
Right, we'll have to talk about the date of the March meeting at the end of the meeting. Okay,
Try not to forget that.
so moving on to new business. For our standing agenda item for having a apprentice in Route 30 tattoo. If you want to come up to the table, and I know, Mr. Arsenal, you're very familiar with this process, but for the apprentice applicant here, if you want to fill out the sheet there with your name and address, and once you've done that, if you want to clearly speak into the microphone, your name and address for the record. And I just add, it's always nice seeing an apprentice already come in with fully tatted arms.
Or at least one.
Yeah.
Got the look going. He didn't do that himself, did he?
No, jeez.
I actually, he was hired just when I first seen him, because he.
Is he a lefty?
He looks like my partner from my other place. So we have a great relationship, so he said, you're hired right off the bat for that.
Okay, so we have Keith Pitcher, body art apprentice, Route 30, Tattoo, 2297 Main Street, to meet the board. Mr. Pitcher will be apprenticing with Todd Arsenault of Route 30 Tattoo. So, Mr. Pitcher, if you just want to name and address into the microphone first.
My name is Keith Pitcher. I live in my address as well, you said?
Yeah.
333 Lebanon Street in Malden, Mass. I was very fortunate to find an apprenticeship with Todd at Route 30 Tattoo, and I look forward to continuing my journey in learning and everything that he has to teach me, and all the safe and proper ways of becoming a body arts practitioner.
Okay.
So Mr. Pitcher has submitted all the proper documents, and but just went through with Irvi, her part of this, so she knows how we all work together on this particular thing. So she checked out the health part. The education is through Wallace, which we've approved in the past. He has taken, are these originals, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll make sure I give those back to you. So, yes, so these are all the trainings that he took with Wallace training
Okay.
back in November. Okay, and he's paid his fee. So he's completed the application process.
Good. So this is more just a brief meet and greet. It's not we're going to grill you. It's just more to have folks come here before us just know that we are serious about enforcing our regulations, but also it's nice to sort of meet those that will be practitioners or apprentices and hopefully going on to become a practitioner.
The permit's good for 6 months. I try not to be the one to have to remind people that they do need to either may continue on for 6 months if they're not ready as an apprentice, or if they are, then we'll meet and look at the portfolio and, whatever documentation that shows that you've met the minimum criteria for the current regulations that are in place now.
So any questions from board members?
I have none.
Okay.
Okay.
Welcome.
So this will be
Thank
very
you.
easy for you tonight. Welcome aboard and good luck on your
you.
apprenticeship.
Lisa Hadge will be contacting you with your permit to
Great.
apprentice.
Thank
Okay?
you so much.
Let's give you those so I don't forget.
Yep, have a good night.
She'll ask me if I gave you,
Next month,
I know she'll ask me if I gave you these.
Oh, great, thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay. Next item that was listed in the agenda for Linda Hinn, we're going to be deferring that at least till next meeting. One of the questions that, this is someone that's potentially looking at opening up an establishment for permanent cosmetics microblading in town, but also would then need to have a practitioner license, so is sort of waiting to see whether we even issue a practitioner license before she actually made inroads to try to find a spot. But one of the things that had come up in this was that she had taken the anatomy and physiology for skin professionals from a place other than the Quincy course, which is no longer offered, or Wallace. And we had, on prior hearings, we'd had a variance request where we accepted Wallace as a location for
That
the
I
A&P
would- I
course.
could approve without having to do variances, yeah.
Yeah, and so this was a new school that we had not had anyone come before, so we could not just get that blanket approval, so it was going to be coming in for variance of that.
And I definitely impressed upon her, I do want the application for the establishment, so then at least I can start the review, look at it, make sure it's something that the board would approve of location-wise, and then we can review the floor plan and other things like that. So I want to rule out the location. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing. It's really difficult because she doesn't necessarily want to sign a contract if she's not going to get the practitioner's license. So, but I don't feel that it's appropriate that to at least not have an idea of where she wants to practice and making sure that it's an appropriate location that, could be permitted. So, because
And I
we're
think-
kind of putting those together now, so.
One detail you had shared with me too is that she's also looking in Chelmsford, but Chelmsford had was it $1,000?
I don't know, she said it was a lot more, yeah.
Yeah,
And
some
I thought we had. a
very
high-
sizable fee for
Yeah.
the permit or the facility license.
I think the location right now has hairdressing sinks in it and things like that. So it would need some alteration. But I want to make sure it's zoned right and make sure it's not in a salon, but I want to make sure it's not, a salon, because we don't particularly go for that. So, but I think it is in a group of other service type locations, service type businesses. So,
Right, and one of the questions, unfortunately, Mr. Bichetti isn't here yet to weigh in on this, and I think I know how he would weigh in, but I think as we look at someone that's opening up or looking to get an establishment license, that we need to look at future expansion, so not look at something that would allow someone to just work as a sole proprietor, but a place that is able to handle multiple practitioners, each with a client, so that we're not looking at a place where only one person can be working and only one client can be there, because then if they look to expand, then that gets into a whole nother realm of issues. So just as
I think
DPW is
that
looking
is
at.
what she's looking at right now. So,
Yeah.
it's, just to let you know.
So like
But,
with DPW and the grease tanks of looking at a restaurant, knowing if they have all this equipment, even though they might not be using all of it to generate fat and grease right now, if they had the equipment there, at some point, they could expand to be using those things. So we need to sort of be
But I think the
towards
other thing
future.
with the one that Mr. Bichetti would be talking about is that we allowed certain allowances because of that
Yeah.
one person. So there were variances given to that. So if they've met all the criteria and that's what they're going to do, that's a whole different thing than being given, variances for something and then changing what you first applied for. So.
Yeah.
So I hope that, she hopes to continue. She wants to be here, obviously. She found a place that she's interested in. So just deferring that, so, and just till next month.
Okay, so next time on new,
Well, it is a variance request, so it should be continued to a date, time, and certain.
Okay.
So someone should make that
We could do that,
motion.
yeah. Good idea.
So I will make a motion to continue this to a date, time, and certain to be established by,
And we don't have that date set.
we don't have that date set,
Next meeting, so.
but to the next meeting
To-
as established, and under new business, and that would be item 1 under new business.
I will second that.
Okay, so motion's been put forth and seconded, so all those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, motion carries unanimously. Okay.
Thank you.
And last item under new business tonight is Jimbo's Roast Beef, 616 Main Street, non-compliance with federal food code. So if you'd like to come forward, and then on the sheet, just sign your name and address, and then state clearly your name and address into the microphone, please. And everyone has a copy of the packet you brought up with the inspection report and so this is a nice color copy. It looks like these are all originals. Like Shannon did a lot of
Lisa
writing.
does not like doing that, killing trees. I have to pull, I'm like, don't worry, you're not responsible.
Harkirat Singh,
And then your address, please?
personal or the business?
The home address.
20 Pratt Street, Tewkesbury, Mass.
Okay.
01876.
So Director, I'll let you open.
Okay. I'll start by saying I was not here when this inspection occurred, so although this is secondhand, I can represent for Shannon. So Inspector Sullivan went on February 13th, 2020, to conduct a regular unannounced inspection at Jimbo's Roast Beef, 616 Main Street. There were a number of items that she found in violation and that caused her to close the establishment at that moment, and gave him the overnight to work on the list, which she actually had to come back to the office, work on the list, then get that to you, right? And then went back on Friday and reopened the establishment, stating that the imminent sanitation issues had been taken care of. But one of her major concerns is the repetitiveness of many of these violations over the last couple of years. And just over a year ago, Mr. Singh had engaged a consultant to, do some training and look at the establishment. It was brought up to a very good level at that time, and we had signed off back then. So that consultant did not have an extended contract, as we've done in some other things, under other times. But he did fulfill what we felt at that time that was warranted. Did a cursory inspection, did some training with the employees. So because of the extensiveness of the items that she saw and the repetitiveness, she requested that Mr. Singh appear here at the Board of Health, and we discuss future, possible further action in this matter. So,
And then just add on to that Shannon did email me on Friday morning, and then I emailed her back, or she called me, and I said, yeah, let's put this on the agenda because we do need to have them come before us. So I was aware of it as of that Friday.
I would only say that since Shannon's not here and we have photographs, her signature and someone else's in charge is on the photographs, and I would just move that we put these into the record and they have been duly authenticated by Shannon Sullivan. So I'd just let the applicant know, right, that we have these photographs, and do you have a problem with their accuracy or what they portray?
Well, only thing I can say, we do have a, it's called HACCP plan.
Just do they portray, are they accurate?
Yes,
Okay, that's all we need.
They
And then
are.
I'll turn it over to the chairman, and he
They are.
can take over. We just want to put them in the record,
Sure.
okay?
Go ahead.
Because the sanitarian is not here.
Right.
And we want to talk about them, all right?
So I think, in general, besides the fact that this is a 7-page report of written comments, and because there have been issues in the past in noncompliancy, what we have successfully done in other food establishments is require that they hire a food safety consultant that comes in, does the initial inspection, puts together an action plan, and then works with getting the staff trained, and then going back, some cases on a monthly basis, to do a follow-up inspection to ensure continued compliancy. And in one case, usually this has gone on for at least 3 or 6 months, and in one case, we had them continue until they had 3 months of inspection reports where there are no violations found at all. And the reason we do this is that the health department is really not staffed to go out and provide this training and the constant sort of oversight and follow through and make sure that things are being done. Their role is more to come in after this has been done, just to make sure that everything is up to par. And I think at least it's hard for me, because I know my family gets a lot of food from you folks, and we've been doing it for years, so we take this part very seriously, though, and we like to know that with having a consultant board, it has worked out very well in the past, if I'm correct, with other food establishments, that they've come back into compliancy and sort of, and I believe in follow-up inspections, things have been,
And like I said, that he
Resolved.
did have someone, and you're not required, obviously, to hire any particular person, but it just didn't continue on. So one would hope that that would also come from their side if they see the benefit of it too, you know?
right.
But that doesn't generally happen without an order.
Yeah, and usually when people come before us, there's been like 1 or 2 critical violations, but this is, unfortunately, there wasn't, at least I'm looking at this, and we're not usually seeing all the normal inspections. This seems like it's more than what we've seen for,
The front
Quantity.
page, yeah, the front page, which is actually kind of on the back of the front page, because it's doubles. You can see the number of violations related to foodborne illness risk factors, she listed as 10. And the numbers that were repeated, the repeat violations is 5, so.
Where's that?
Oh, sorry, so the front page is actually on the inside of the top front page.
oh, that's where, okay.
It's just stapled wrong, that's all.
We're getting used to the new inspection report, too.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the idea is that the front page, these are the items that need to be, you know, addressed immediately. And then the other pages are more of that floors, walls, ceilings, things that they don't consider now, instead of critical and non-critical, they're priority, priority foundation or core. So that's how we cite them. If you see P, PF, or C, it's priority foundation or core. So most of these are priorities, and then the others support things. So say hand washing would be not saying it's here, but say, not saying hand washing would be a priority. Not having soap would be a priority foundation, because it's supporting that. So it's one of those things. So the priorities, the idea is to get that full page really without problems. And then the other pages, generally, they can spend more time working on, up to 30 days or longer, but generally 30 days.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Through you, could I ask Mr. Scarano a question regarding the hood cleaning on page 6?
Sure.
Does that cause any other issues other than the sanitation issues, which is what we're here all about?
Well, as you may know, the hood has grease buckets, cans attached to it, where the excess grease goes, and they get overwhelmed, and it backs up on the hood, and no matter what's under it is at risk. So having a regularly scheduled maintenance cleaning doesn't just include the hood, it includes everything to the roof, to the exhaust, etc. So just cleaning the hood isn't really.
Well, the
what you-
sanitation issue is what we're here about, but
Right.
is there any issues with safety in terms of that hood being, any
Obviously.
fire issues?
Sure
or
there
anything?
is.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's grease.
Sure there is. There's a grease
Well,
buildup.
that's not a good thing.
No,
Right, generally
you're right
the-
on the sanitation, you're right on the fact that it can compromise anything underneath it. It tends to get over the utensils, pots, pans, you name it. That is spread from one side to the other. Sometimes it's washed in a sink without the grease trap. So we have spreading issues all the time when the grease isn't kept at check. So I hope that answers your question.
I would assume it would attract pests as well, right?
I would think that, if they could get that high, or they were penetrating the roof system or getting inside, that obviously would be a problem. But obviously, regular maintenance,
We do have irregular maintenance. The last time they're supposed to come in, happened to be snow. So they did yesterday morning. It's already done. So we do have it regularly. Otherwise, we've been there for 12 years. If we don't do regularly maintenance, hood cleaning, it can cause a fire easily. And I'm in this business for 20 years. I agree with you. We weren't like paying attention to a little bit cleaning and everything, but I do have it's called HACCP plan, that everything we do there, we have it written down and fully trained for everything. And our prep guys with us from day one, and I can 100% sure I can keep an eye on it now on and train my staff. And I request you can come and do more often inspection, so that way we can prove it.
well, I
We
think
know
what
we're
they
doing.
want to, what the board would like to do right now is just complete reviewing the report.
Yes.
And then they're going to have a discussion, and then they're going to ask you to chime in on what your remedial repairs will be. But I'm just going to turn it back over to the chairman so that he can continue with the record that's in front of him.
So one question I have for the director, if I'm not mistaken, with this new food safety code that the state is now having towns and cities follow, am I correct that one of the parts of this was that the establishment is supposed to keep a copy of the current inspection report if the public was to view it, or is that only a
They
past?
are supposed to have a sign up in a legible that says that you have the right to request our most recent report for viewing, Health Department report for viewing. So it has to be available for anyone to look at, the most recent one. They don't have to provide a copy, but they have to provide it for the customer to look at.
At the location, not to have someone come down to the department to look?
Well, so it's always been public knowledge. Anyone could always come down and say, I'd like to see anyone's report. It's rarely done. I mean, sometimes as you see the exposés on Channel 5 or something, sometimes they might go to schools or something, they would come and ask for, so now it's actually needs to be posted. So we just had our food code training, and we just really kind of rolled that out to everyone, and we have a sheet that has the exact language, or you can use you can just literally cut it out and laminate it if you want, or you can print your own and put it up. So yes, anyone can ask to look at this.
Okay, and was someone from Jimbo's present at one of these training sessions that you ran?
Two people.
Okay.
I was there too.
And that was just a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and again, from our vantage point, we're not worried about past history. We're more focused about what's been done is done. We're just trying to look forward and make sure that whether it's residents and non-residents, anyone that's going to be a customer of a food establishment knows that they're going to be getting food that's prepared in a safe preparation area. So we take these inspection reports, especially violations, very seriously. And in most cases, things can be readily fixed.
I promise I'll take this very serious, and I'm very confident. As I said, I'm doing this for 20 years, and we have everything written down how we're supposed to do. I will definitely take care of that, not a problem at all. We shouldn't have that problem.
Like in specific, say, at that 90-minute training, a couple of things that would jump out at me is the dating of items is now, that was talked about, having to date things that if you're not going to use it within 24 hours, has to be dated. And there was a violation there. The training, of course, that's constant. The cooked chicken sitting on the counter. Now there are ways you can do these things. You have to have procedures. So say this is your procedure to have chicken at room temperature for an hour, because that's how you do things. You have to have a procedure, because we come in and it's that temperature, it's a violation. But you have to provide us procedure for us. So that was talked about. Yeah, so I mean, there were things that were absolutely talked about then.
Yeah, I think that's the value of having the consultant go out, is that whether an establishment already has a good set of checklists or a thick manual about what needs to be done, the focus more is the documentation itself. The notebook isn't going to be doing the actual cleaning, so we need to make sure that the staff is actually implementing everything that the effort has gone into to documenting what needs to be done. I think that's where the food safety consultant comes into value, because then they're the ones, rather than the department, going back and making sure that things are being done and pointing out any deficiencies if there are any.
Well, certainly, some of these violations are of the most basic but most important types of deviations. Sanitizers. I mean, having sanitizers mixed at the right ratios is very important. And one of the other things I see here is the hand sink problem in this facility. It's not close to anything. It doesn't seem to facilitate anyone's regular use. It just is an area of absolute critical concern. And this is why you may want to have someone come in and suggest to you how to remedy this daily non-compliance situation. I mean, it's impossible for someone to think that they can go to a hand sink and do food prep, any kind of food prep. And if that's that close and that tempting, then maybe the other actual utilization area is either overwhelmed or not available. I mean, these are circulation problems that need to be addressed. And normally, at least from my experience, they need some objective perspective rather than a subjective perspective by an owner. And I will say, as an owner and a former owner, everyone is short-sighted when it comes to their own compliance, and that's why I think the chairman is talking about an objective view and another pair of eyes that might be able to assist a venue like this that's busy and has, this number of issues that need to be addressed. So I would just leave that up to the chairman to see if there's anything further that should be discussed on that.
Well, I guess I'll open up to board members. Any questions of,
Where is the hand washing sink? I'm trying to figure out from the pictures, if it's, you're saying it's not.
Yeah, I don't have a plan.
Vicinity.
I didn't
Photograph
bring that
because it's
part.
fairly out of.
It's right behind the line,
It's behind the grill?
grill and slicer.
Okay.
And our prep guy comes in like 5 a.m. in the morning. He usually done by 11 o'clock, all the prep. And he do by himself all that, prepping. And then all the line cooks comes. So the sink is right there for them. But in the morning, he's by himself, so nobody bothers him. He does, and he's doing that day one we open. And
Well, those are some of the things we get concerned about, because if it's from day
well,
one,
if
it's from day one, maybe it just needs another set of eyes to have it take a look at it and determine whether or not there might be a better method. I'm not saying that what you're doing is out of line, out of sync. What I'm saying is that a second set of eyes might assist your entire operation with a objective view on maybe some different protocols. And that I think has been the board's actual protocol in the past when we run into these types of violations, is that we think that a minimal amount of help might be utilized in order to bring you along at a greater pace in trying to address some of the shortcomings. Some of these shortcomings, are, from a mechanical standpoint, refrigeration. There's an issue. I don't know if there's a refrigeration guy called, but I want to know, and I want you, or I want your observer to tell me that they're coming in to address the shortfall and shortcomings of this refrigeration system, period. I need some sort of mechanical report that, you're bringing in the right people to bring yourself back into compliance. And as you know, the refrigeration this year, above all, is completely critical because we're going to a new gas.
right.
No old gases, no more. I see people actually bringing their own tanks in to do their own maintenance. That certainly can't happen anymore, but that's my point. My point is that, here we have an identification of an issue. We think objectively you should get a third party's view of it. It should be looked at, and it should be determined whether or not something can't be done immediately or some long-term maintenance can't be employed. Maybe obsolescence is absolutely in the picture and replacements in the future. But these are the things that we need to know that you're addressing, because we can't wait for a critical failure.
Absolutely.
So as it relates to that, we think that a calendar has to be put together from your point. We think, at least I think, that you would need assistance to put that calendar together, and that you should get someone from the outside, a third party, objectively, to review this.
Sure, sir.
Provide a calendar to us on these critical repairs. Provide a calendar on your maintenance and obsolescence replacement. Take a look at the equipment, the utensils, the refrigeration, your storage space. These logistics, sometimes being busy, you lose track. I know. We all know. It's when you get busy that things tend to get out of sync. What we're asking, and I think the board will be asking, is that you bring a third party back in to get back into sync. I don't think it's too much to ask.
No problem, sir.
And I think it's you're the permit holder, you're the one responsible.
I'll take care of that. No
Okay,
problem.
and I think a calendar is is a great idea. I think there are thresholds that you can meet to meet the expectations of the sanitarian and the department. I think that there is a large group of people out there that will assist you at a fairly reasonable cost as it relates to what you need to get done, and you may actually save money in the end by doing this through an objective view. So as it relates to that, does anyone have anything else before I attempt to fashion a motion?
I think the only thing I'll just mention, we've made this offer to all the other establishments that have come before us where we go down the same path, and that is that, well, we know that you have hired a food safety consultant in the past. The department does have a list of consultants. We don't recommend one over the other, but if you're not sure who to get, at least the director can provide you with a list of those that are in the area.
Sure, sir.
Okay, so with
So
that,
with that, if
I just
no,
have one quick
Yes, go
comment.
ahead,
Some of
Mr.
this
Wu.
is just neglect. It's unclean and it's neglect. And I don't expect the Board of Health to be having to go back and forth down there. We have limited resources. We've got to hire somebody to report back to her that this is being taken care of. I mean, these light switches are ridiculous. That didn't just happen over a week.
Yes.
10 days, looks like 6, 8 months of neglect.
you know, I know that when I operated, I actually had my electrician bring in a box of plates. Okay, I had a spare box of plates. I didn't even clean them anymore. I actually cleaned the walls and I took the plate off and I put a new plate on because they weren't worth cleaning. So I mean, but these are things that a third set of eyes is going to help you with, and you can actually save time and money
Right.
by looking at the most economical ways to do that. So I'm going to make a motion, and at this time, we have significant reports, evidence, photographs in front of us as the administrative record. We have suggestions by the sanitarian and the health director as it relates to compliance with the federal and is this all federal? Oh, do we have local?
It's the state.
It's state.
Yeah, Massachusetts.
Do we have any
we've
local
adopted-
issues whatsoever?
We don't have any local regulation.
Okay,
in
so
the-
there's
in this
nothing
regard.
local to talk about, so it's strictly federal and state?
Federal and state.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a motion that the permit holder hire a professional food safety person, consultant, expert, and submit proof of a signed contract within 7 days. Number two, within 14 days of that contract being signed, we'd like the consultant to observe your operations, critique them, identify any deficiencies, look at your food handling, look at your food storage, and provide a report in writing on the logistics that it relates to the report. So we actually want him to go through this report, assist you in making recommendations, and assist you in writing the report back to the board on how you're coming into compliance. And he is especially to look at any repeat items, and if he needs to, he should look at any other violations that have been issued over the last years that would result in repeat violations, because those are the most important things that can be addressed. So within 21 days, we'd like the consultant to give a report of action that you are going to be taking with his help to the department so that they can review that report.
Sure, sir.
And number four, the consultant will have, and if the consultant needs to have photographs, other documentation, you have a set of photographs here. That consultant can take that new set of photographs and show the difference, the remediation, the repairs, whatever it is that's required. This is his guideline to you so that he could entertain that 21-day report back to the Board of Health and back to the sanitarian. And that control plan should be something that you're going to be utilizing over the next year or so in order to stay in compliance. And again, we touched on a few things here. You got equipment issues. He should be reviewing these equipment issues. You have refrigeration that needs to be reviewed, whether it's obsolescence and replacement. That's how comprehensive a report this needs to be, but you have the report and the photographs to hand him and tell him these are the things that need to be addressed, these are the things that we need to work on. This consultant will be on board for at least 6 months?
Yeah, I think 6 months, because and we'll just evaluate that depending on how the inspection reports come.
We're going to do a status review in 6 months, and we're going to review the reports. We're going to look for any deficiencies. We may even have an enhancement document to go to your consultant so that you can finish up, finalize your program.
Did you
And
want monthly reports, or do you want just?
I would say that the person should indicate to you monthly reports unless you see such progress that you unilaterally could step back from that. And that would be the sanitarian's role, I think. And your consultant will help you make a final document that will become your operational manual and your operation and repair manual.
Start right there. He has a start right here.
Excellent.
So,
That's good.
yeah, you can
Yeah,
take a
we will take a look at it.
look. This should make it easier for him.
I'll tell you what, if you have this already and it's in great shape, handing this to your consultant will give him a roadmap to completion, and you should be able to get through this stuff in a very short order. Maybe 6 months is not even necessary if you can demonstrate that kind of compliance. With that, I'm glad you have the book, and we will take a look at it. But what we're going to do is make this motion and.
Sure, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to make that motion in that form. Do I need to clarify any of those 6 items that I have?
I think I have the dates of the 7-day.
It'll be the 7-day?
14 days, the 21 days,
7-day contract,
right?
14 days,
Critique and identify.
correct.
Submit right away.
Deficiencies report,
And 21 days.
21 days, written plan of
Plan
action,
of action, yeah.
21 days, documentation, and maybe even photographs coming back to demonstrate compliance.
That's part of it, okay.
Consultant will inspect the establishment, and for 6 months, you'll retain him, and he'll issue monthly reports unless the sanitarian or the director determines otherwise. And this will enhance this operation manual that you have. Anything that is being done in the interim should be added to your operation manual, and submit this when it's done.
Just state that.
This is calendar days, so when we talk about 7 days, 21 days, they're calendar days, right in a row. So there's no delays for holidays or anything else, okay? So they're all calendar days on these timeframes. With that, I'd submit that back to the chairman.
One point of clarification, Bob.
Sure.
Is there any items from a hierarchical perspective that should be handled before the 14 days is up? There's some stuff on here that I think needs to be tended to
Well,
immediately.
as I mentioned, it was closed. If Shannon felt there was an imminent hazard, she would not have reopened them.
Okay.
You know, the second thing that could have happened is it could have just been suspended until this meeting. So, I mean, Shannon was very good to be able to get back out there and open it. If there is anything that she didn't say, was there anything on the list that she told you to get done in the next few days, or?
I think she had
might be a-
highlighted in red.
Okay,
One
Maybe
table that already replaced,
okay.
one refrigerator guy is already fixed.
But yeah, had she not been at least comfortable enough, that would have remained closed.
No problem.
And
It's
the
more
one
than-
thing that I really am concerned about is the hand sink. I think you yourself
Oh,
should,
yeah, I see that.
you should take a look at this thing right away.
Yeah,
I'm sure you
before-
have plumbing that's in the concrete. I'm sure that's how that slab is done. But they now have pumps.
Sure.
You can locate a sink anywhere by plugging it into an electric and pumping
She didn't really
it
say which was.
to a spot.
So,
So adding a sink over there
not a problem.
now is much easier because you don't have to hammer up the concrete. There's actually sinks with pumps built in them that can be utilized.
Not a problem.
And I think that's something that you might want to look at because I'll tell you what, having having an extra hand sink,
No problem.
nothing like it.
We can take care of that.
All right. And just a point of clarification on
There
the
are.
the inspection report and pictures. If you look at the pictures, the first 3 pages were done taken upon the reinspection, and the last grouping last 6 pages were done upon the initial
Kind
inspection.
of reverse, yeah.
Yeah, so
You
it
can
does
see that
show
there's some compliance,
there was some
absolutely.
Oh,
there was
right.
some improvement made.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, those 6 items would be my motion as it hasn't been modified, but clarified by Mr. Rue. We've noted and qualified it as calendar days on all of these days. And I would move that those 6 items be part of the motion for the board to consider.
Okay, motion's been put forth. Anyone willing to second the motion?
I will second the motion.
Okay, motion's been put forth and seconded. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Mr. Rue? Aye. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you. Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries unanimously 4-0.
Let me pass that down.
Okay.
All right, we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
And wish you the best of luck.
I
And
won't give you a chance to, any issue now on.
listen, we understand the busy nature of the business. It's all about compliance. We know you're well on your way. You've shown and demonstrated that. And I think with the outside help, you're going to be able to flash
Not a
this.
We'll do that.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do you want this back?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to be updated. And that's 2008, so it's, you know,
Sure.
yeah, she'll update it. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
very welcome.
Okay. Director reports.
So,
So we have
it's not just a report, but it's just kind of information that Ray Barry and I participated in a municipal vulnerability preparedness program on January 2nd. And they actually just had a follow-up meeting on that of the principal people. So it was very interesting, brought all different departments together throughout the town. And we were kind of brought in the middle of something they'd already been working on. They'd already been looking at areas in the town that could be vulnerable and due to whether maybe lack of generators or if there was roads that maybe were too low and might be, if were raised, would stop constant flooding, things like that. I mean, that was all discussed. It was a very productive meeting, and it was part of what now the town can ask for grants in that. And Ray happened to be invited as well. So what'd you think of it, Ray?
I think it was actually very interesting way they set up because there were, I think, 5 groups of us. And they intentionally
Yes, they did.
staffed the groups with people of dissimilar backgrounds or interests. So we didn't have like a health department, public health table and a DPW table. So there was a lot of varied opinions, which I thought was good. And it was interesting as each group came up with slightly different recommendations. So there's going to be quite a job to try to assimilate all those into one master plan. But I think it just showed that all the groups seem to be right on task about potential hazards that climate change would potentially bring, whether through extraordinary rainfalls, wind events, long-duration storms, cold weather, and all the resulting issues. I thought it was a very beneficial day to just hear the input from others.
And then when we met with Melissa with the Housing Authority, she was saying that hopefully what could come out of it is at least the common areas, the common rooms at the Housing Authority complexes, if they could get generators, it would be so helpful. It was really difficult when they had no power and literally could only put a sign up on the door that said, sorry, we have no power. For all these people, living in these apartments with no power, and they had no plan, nothing set up. So, but they have very nice common areas that they could easily spend some time in and, get warm and all that. So I know they're definitely looking at that.
Yeah, from a health standpoint too, like I don't know how many residents use use an oxygen compressor for oxygen delivery, so, which is plugged into the wall. So it'd be kind of nice to have a list of people that would be extra vulnerable during those times of power outages. So we touched on that a little bit, because if you don't have power, you're not going to get your oxygen. If you don't have like a backup manual tank, and even those, I mean, this you said lasted like 5 days. A portable tank is not going to last 5 days. So.
Well, actually, in my group, I had someone from National Grid. And so I learned something that I'll share, and that was that one of my concerns when we're talking about emergency preparedness for residents is for those residents that do have medical equipment home that rely on power, of how do they make sure that the power company knows about that, but then everyone does pass at some point, so how do they keep their records updated? And what National Grid representative told me is that they have a set process where annually they will go out and recontact everyone that is in their database just to verify that they still have those medical devices that require power, so that they keep their records as up to date as possible.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which I didn't realize that there was a process for, so.
It's funny, people know there's similar problems, but they don't know that somebody's already tackling it. That's the thing too. If you don't have cross conversations like this, you don't know that maybe a company is already tackling that or already working on it, so.
Just the fact that they're having these conversations and that there is a concerted effort to bring together groups that will assist and come to your rescue, you still have the ability to do some of the smaller things that would help you from a standpoint of crank up flashlights, crank up small electrical devices that will charge your cell phone and even some smaller devices. So don't run short of the fact that there are other emergency preparedness out there at a relatively low cost that might assist you while someone is coming to your rescue, and maybe that there is a generator coming your way, but being able to reach out and make that contact and having that bit of emergency power in reserve is obviously something that has crashed in price and become quite affordable. And I'm sure that this kind of program would even be looking to assist with vendors that might be able to supply those things to you. And I didn't attend, but I'm sure that that might be something that might be able to be brought to their attention.
So that was good. I was happy to be part of that. I submitted the annual town report to the town manager. That's just something we do every year, just letting them know what we do and some of the highlights, thanking everybody for their service to the town. And that was done a couple of weeks ago. As far as open cases, let you know, 7 South Amos, we did receive an order from the judge that will be reviewed in March 16th. If there's no progress, the Board of Health now has the approval to lock the property and ask for a receiver who would then take over the property and clean it up, at least from the inside's perspective, because that is our case. But the judge did grant that request. We did get an inspection prior to that court date. It was not sufficient to be lived in. It was still in a condition that you could walk through wider areas, access facilities. That, yes, you could do that, but it wasn't, didn't meet what we would consider the minimum standards of human habitation at that time. So, still working on it. We do have another scheduled inspection, and then we'll be back in court, and we'll see where we're at then. There are some structural issues. They have to get he has to get a structural engineer or a structural repair done. He's already had an engineer look at it, so the repair has to be affected. So that's another issue, unfortunately, that, is kind of parallel, because you have to have a safe house to have the clean house, so that is ongoing.
Susan,
Yes,
so who's handling the outside of this property?
that is a building case that has been going to Superior Court.
So there's still, okay,
Yes, it is ongoing, and has been for a while. They had a court date as well, and I won't say what I think happened, but I'm not sure where they're at again.
we get
I don't think they
calls
have
and I
any
wanna-
judgment at the moment. I think there's a different judge on it now, and so they have to kind of,
You want to make sure we defer the, we get calls on these things and it's,
my hope is if we do get, if we get to the receivership stage, even though we're just for the inside, for it to be cleaned up properly so that it could be ready for sale, I would say that the budget that would be put forth would be cleaning up the property. That would be my expectation, because it would have to be be able to be presented for sale if the person did not want to pay the cost of taking care of it. So that we'd have to wait and see what the estimate and what the judge approved. So it's all up to what the judge approves too, so.
Are there other similar hoarding issues in town that are in the court system now, or is this the one that's really furthest?
Currently, this is the one we have open. Yep, this is the one we have open. There have been others, and they've, in different stages, that maybe are already for sale, or the person has passed on, or have met minimum standards, which, we don't tell people, you have to have a perfectly clean house. That's not our job. It just has to meet the minimum safety standards, things falling on you. You don't, you want to be able to have a stretcher come in. You want to have water, furnace, and heat. Those things are basic human needs that we make sure they have that. Just so you know, E-Market is under, I have a new application for that, a new owner. So that's the 1699 Shawsheen that has been before us before. So the new name is Marketplace, I believe, The Marketplace. So I'm reviewing that application right now. I also just got an application for TJ Callahan's, a possible buyer for that. So that's where I have a couple that are in process, they're doing renovations. Kyoto is not going to start till April. Main Street's still working on their expansion. Cafe Cecilia is going to be doing, some items, some expansion as well that's been approved. So there's a lot going on. A lot going on in the world of food.
What about with Lisa's Pizza?
Yeah, that's stagnant. I'll have to talk to Mr. Ross about
Okay.
that. We left it in that Lisa's Pizza was going to, we wanted the agreements drawn up prior to the approvals. I think last time we approved different technologies and then had the agreements with the owner kind of part of the package later. We want that now, so that the owner understands, what the technology is that's being brought in there, so.
And it's sticking with the DIPA technology?
It's not called that, but it's a similar active removal of, similar type of technology, but under the same variance without, changing that variance.
And I think as we
But
talked
we-
on that, it would,
Yes.
to have them be, because they're inheriting this,
Right.
to have them put together some type of a maintenance and operations plan, so they know
Correct.
what it's gonna
Ahead of
take.
time.
Ahead of time, for them to continue to operate a similar but new device.
And there was no caveat in there that if the device failed, that would have to go to a non-active removal system, more of a passive type, like a tank or anything like that. So we talked about maybe modifying the variance approval. So if this doesn't work, what next, you know? So they don't end up in the same position, but that's where we're at. That particular gentleman, Mr. Ross, has been working on a number of projects so we've been kind of working through those one at a time. That's one of them. Yeah, so those are the big stuff that's going on. If you have any questions about anything that's closed or open, yeah, I mean, feel free to ask. I don't always remember everything that we worked on.
And there are any more
Try and keep-
trainings for the
Oh,
new
yeah.
food safety code coming up?
No, so we had 4 sessions. We had about 90 attendees over that 4 sessions, which is about it was spread over about 75% of our food establishments. First time we've done something like that, great feedback. I see that we could definitely do more of this, maybe do choke saving, maybe do Narcan has been brought up to us, possible that food establishments want to know about Narcan, some other types of training, yeah.
I know we have a venue that I talked to the chairman about doing some BLS and a knock-in. We have a facility, and there's actually, I think there'd be good incentive for people to come in and learn, and if we can do it on a regular basis. And as I said, I know we have a lot of mannequins that myself and one of the proprietors of a business had done and want to put them to good use on a regular basis.
Speaking of facility, where Ray and we didn't mention where that meeting was, and I didn't know this existed, but the Lowell, is it called Lowell Bank? Lowell, it's over by Wendy's in there. It's the
Should be in
Lowell,
that one.
it's not the Savings Bank.
Lowell
it's
5 corporate.
Lowell 5 corporate building. If you went to the website there, they have a room or rooms that you can actually book. And you pick, I want, 6 tables set up with 20 chairs, and you pick it, and it's free, and it's a really nice venue.
No, it is.
It was quiet, they let us bring in food in the hallway, and big screen. Yeah, I mean, the library's nice, but it's very busy. To get time in the library but something like that, who knew it, has that nice room, and maybe there's more of those rooms around.
Well, that's a great opportunity. I know some of the establishments here, because of the choking and the CPR, they're interested. They do have some rooms in here, and I know people have spoke to me about it.
Yeah, that would be good.
So I think that we have a lot of opportunities.
I think getting in there, line of sight with these types of things, short inspections on food, or doing just something on hand washing and sanitizer. I mean, I know that's simple, but I mean, it's not, that people just don't do it right.
Can't spell words without the alphabet. So you got to start sometimes.
There you go.
Something at the beginning.
There you go. So it was definitely successful, and Deb Rosati put on very good training, good feedback. Yeah, I thank the library for their support. It was great.
So board reports, anything on Tewksbury Cares?
Yes, we have our next meeting. That'll be on March 11th at 5:30. We're going to have that meeting at the Clean Slate facility at 170 Main Street, which is next to Atamian. And we'll have snacks.
Wow.
Yes, snacks.
Last time they gave us pizza.
Yeah, it was good.
Food's
You might
always
want to
a
say that address again.
I know. I'll bring the cupcakes, and
You gotta
we're
bring
still-
more.
I know, I'm gonna bring more this time, I didn't know. Still working on fundraising methods. I have a few things in the fire right now, so I'm hoping those come to fruition and we can start raising some money so we can expand on our mission and our outreach efforts. And that's what's going on with Tewksbury Cares. And as always, if you have an interest, you can email me at tewksburycares@gmail.com. Thank you.
Nice plug. Thank you. Okay, staff report. So I asked Director to have our new town nurse talk about something that was of currency. And I had suggested current status of the influenza, because unfortunately, my father-in-law has passed from complications of it, and then I had a 65-year-old member of my golf league, whose son is also my golf league, passed away from the flu, having only been in the hospital for 3 days with it. So it's, as much as they're talking about the coronavirus, the flu, I think, is far more dangerous for us, and just thought it'd be good just to hear from our new town nurse to a bit more about what we can do.
Yeah, sure. So MDPH puts out a weekly report on their website. So the information that you have in front of you is dated the 14th of this month, but it's actually for the prior week, so that they can analyze the data and put the charts and everything together. The influenza severity has increased from high to very high this week. It's widespread throughout the Commonwealth. And they also report on influenza-like illness. They do separate that out on the website, but I thought I'd just stick with influenza really right now. And they are saying that the vaccine that was established this season has been pretty, wouldn't believe it, but that it has been actually pretty effective against the current strains that are out there. So that's good, because sometimes you have the strains, you get the vaccine and it's totally not a match for what's going on that season. So that's a plus. And the influenza-like illness, like I said, those are also increasing. And influenza-like illness is anything that's a fever over 100 degrees with either a cough or a sore throat. They may not test positive as influenza,
That was my family.
but it is an influenza-like like infection. The hospitalizations have also, the number of hospitalizations have also increased recently. We've had 14 pediatric deaths for that week, 92 total for the flu season. Initially, I think we started with more influenza B, but now the trend is that the influenza A numbers are catching up and the influenza B numbers are going down, so it's kind of evening out in terms of flu A versus flu B. And the recommendation from the CDC is that if you should get on an antiviral 48 hours within your symptoms starting. The antivirals, that's when they're most effective, and that's really when they work. And I definitely believe it, because my son was sick last week, started the Tamiflu and did amazing. So that it's good to see that. Sorry, not that it's good to see, but it's good to have the information that really gives us where the flu is going for the season, that the A numbers are increasing, the Bs are decreasing. And nationally, the influenza-like illness activity remains elevated. All this information, like you can find local information for the state through the Mass Department of Public Health, or nationally, you can find the information through the CDC. They do a weekly report, which I think is pretty good. And the CDC estimates that so far there have been 26 million flu illnesses, 250,000 hospitalizations, and 14,000 deaths from the flu. So as you can see, those numbers are far greater than the coronavirus. Wow. Most important, hand wash. If soap and water are not available, you can use hand sanitizer, but really the number one recommendation is wash your hands with soap and warm water for 20 seconds. Try not to touch your face. Just the general precautions that you normally would take, but maybe be a little bit more aware that you are washing your hands and not really touching your face. And then I also have a chart here that kind of breaks down. I thought I'd throw pediatric in there, the 0 to 4 year statistics, and also the rest of those lines are on the graph are 65 plus, and then it also gets broken down 65 to 74, 75 to 84, and then 85 plus. And you can see that 85 plus number is pretty staggering in terms of hospitalizations for the flu. And of course, the flu can also lead to opportunistic infections such as pneumonia, and that's especially dangerous for somebody that's got COPD or any other lung-related diseases. So really exercise extra precaution in washing your hands and just be more careful about it, to make sure you're mindfully washing your hands for 20 seconds with soap and warm water or hand sanitizer.
So a couple of questions for you. One, I, as a hospital employee, like most hospital employees, are required to get the flu shot annually. So is a flu shot designed to protect against both influenza A and B, or just one or the other?
No, it is for both. It's
Okay.
a quadrivalent, so if you got the regular flu shot, it's a quadrivalent, which means that it has, I believe it's 3 of the B virus that they predict, because the production of the flu virus, they start it like in March, and they have to grow it all, so it takes a good 6 months to get enough vaccine to get out there for the public. So they try to, do an educated, really guess of how they think that the virus is going to mutate for that following flu season. So I believe it has 3 strains of the 3 separate B strains and then 1 A strain. And so that should give you hopefully optimal protection.
Okay.
But, like I said, you don't know how the virus is going to mutate. So
And if one has not gotten the flu shot yet, is it still?
That's it.
that's another one. Cough or sneeze into the crook of your elbow, so
That's why I did
spreading.
that.
Yeah, good.
See, by example.
You just set that up, didn't you?
Yeah.
It's had to be purposeful.
And knowing that it takes, I think it's a couple of weeks for the flu shot to actually gain some potency. Should people still be looking at getting the flu shot now, or by the time it gains the full potency, will the flu season be winding down?
No, if you should get the flu vaccine. It's still widely available, so for sure. And especially if you have those underlying respiratory issues, or you're elderly, or have chronic disease of any sort, heart disease, diabetes, any of that, that makes you extra vulnerable.
Yeah.
So.
I just do one follow-up. You mentioned that you started on an antiviral. What is an antiviral and where would one get it?
So an antiviral, it would be, you'd need to see a physician, you'd get swabbed to test you for the flu. If it came back positive, they can start you on an antiviral. An antiviral basically stops the replication of the RNA, so it stops it from replicating and spreading. So,
Can the walk-in clinics, and they do that?
Yeah.
Give you a swab and also prescribe there?
Yeah, they
So
should,
you don't
yeah.
have to go to the hospital?
right, you don't have to go to the hospital, you can go to, your primary care doctor or a walk-in clinic, and, just, they'll give you the mask, make sure you put it on.
It's hard because it's like, well, you don't want to be a baby and go to, but yet you need it within 48 hours. So it's like, do you wait it out? Do you not wait it out? Because if you wait, it's too late.
So that's the other thing is,
Yeah.
kind of a way to tell apart, do you have the flu or do you have a cold?
Yeah.
The flu is going to start, it's going to hit you like a wall. It's going to start, all your symptoms are going to start suddenly, versus the cold takes, you kind of maybe feeling kind of blah for a couple of days prior to really being sick. So if all of a sudden you're just feeling achy, weak, low-grade fever, chances are that it's either the flu or an influenza-like illness.
Does that help non-flu, the influenza-like? If that does a Tamiflu help, something like that?
I don't think
Or
they'll
no?
prescribe you the
No,
Tamiflu if you
unless you're
don't test
positive.
positive. Yeah,
So you're out of luck if you test positive.
yeah.
Just got to wait it out. Okay.
And the other question I had was, during this 48-hour period, how contagious are people when they're coming down with that? I mean, is there a protocol that, when you're coming down with this, should you be self-executing a protocol and staying home from work, staying away from people? I think that seems important as
I
well.
think that you bring up a really good point. Yes, if you're not feeling well, nobody likes to miss work. Work from home if you can. most employers these days, I think, understand, like, you're not feeling well, and as contagious as the flu is, it's better to just say, look, I'm not feeling good, I'm gonna work from home, or hope, seems like a lot of people have that capability these days, especially if you're like a healthcare worker, then you definitely don't want to be going to work, if you're not feeling well. I understand the economic ramifications of it, but really, that's kind of the right thing to do.
Do masks work? Everyone's walking around in masks.
So
They work?
it does work and it doesn't, because you could be you have to know like kind of the proper technique. You want to make sure that the mask is on properly, that it's really giving you good coverage. Are you touching the inside of the mask if you're taking it on and off? Because now the inside has already got all your particles on it. So I think
I think it's going to depend too. People think we put a mask on, there's all different stages and levels of masks, so,
Yeah.
well,
it's
for
like.
the for the regular flu, I think a regular mask is good, for something a little.
Because I know
more
if you're in the waiting room and they're going to give you one.
Yeah.
If you're exhibiting until you turn negative, right?
Yeah.
I heard that. Here's your mask.
So wear it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that very thorough report.
Great. And Ray likes to do one subject a month, so if you have a subject that you think is really of importance, you can either come now and then, which is great. She's not required to, or you can just give it to me and we can bring it to the board and talk about it here.
Right, because all of our meetings are put up on YouTube the day following, so
Yeah,
at least let people know if there's a training module they want to see.
sure.
I see a point where we'll actually be able to add you to the YouTube video, even though you're not here, with the technology that we have.
You just add me in.
Yeah, we're just gonna kind of edit you in for your message, and I think that goes for some other,
Can you make me look a little skinnier?
yeah.
You're going to do it.
I heard that
I
is
think your
possible.
haircut's looking-
How about you?
You're looking
No, all
skinnier.
of us.
Myself, I'm afraid nothing can help.
Remember, YouTube's not TV, so people don't look as bloated in YouTube as they do in the TV.
Yeah.
Take whatever we can get.
Okay, technology.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, is it time?
I think it is time, Mr. Rue.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Tony should be in on this.
Yeah.
Let him second it.
Mr. Chairman, sorry for my delay, but I got done work late and travel was, but I'd like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
And you'll second it.
I'll second that.
There you go.
Okay,
You got
so-
me all messed up now, okay.
The motion to adjourn the meeting has been put forth by our out-of-state worker who valiantly strived to make it here in time through traffic, and seconded by our normal maker of this motioner.
They call me the closer.
So motion's been put forth and second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion carries unanimously. It is 7:37 PM. Good night, Tewksbury.
Good night.
Good night.